The warrior with the tail, the planet Dravalis was a land of blood and war. Every race feared its arenas where warriors fought not for glory, but for survival. The strongest of them all was a female alien named Vrelka. Tall, muscular, and deadly. Her true weapon was her tail. Her tail was not like any other. It was long, sharp like a blade, and moved faster than the eye could see. She had killed over 100 beings with it. No one ever dared challenge her twice. Many called her the executioner of the ring. On that day, the crowd gathered early. The arena was full. The sky above was dark, filled with smoke from warships. Everyone came to see the next fight. They expected blood. They expected Vrelka to win, like always. But today, something was different. The doors opened. Vrelka stood in the middle of the arena, her tail moving slowly behind her like a living whip. Her eyes searched for her next victim. And then, the human walked in. He was small, too small. No armor, no weapons. Just simple clothes and calm eyes. His name was not known. He didn't look like a warrior. He didn't look like he belonged in a place like this. The crowd laughed. Some booed. Some even threw things. How could they bring a human into the arena against Vrelka? Was this a joke? Vrelka tilted her head and smiled. Not a kind smile, but the smile of a predator. She cracked her neck and stepped forward. "What is this?" she said, her voice low. "A child sent to die?" The human didn't reply. He just looked at her, not with fear, not with anger, only silence. Vrelka felt something strange. It was like he was waiting, not to run, not to beg, but to see her. The Queen of Dravalis watched from her private balcony. Beside her, an old advisor whispered, "This human will not last one strike." The queen nodded, then let it be quick. A horn blew. The fight began. Vrelka moved first. She always did. Her tail snapped forward like lightning, aiming for the human's neck. But he moved, not fast, not wild. Just one small step to the side, and the tail missed. The crowd went quiet for a moment. Vrelka blinked. She smiled again, wider now. Lucky. She swung again, this time from the side. Again the human dodged. Again, and again. His hands were still by his sides. He hadn't even lifted a finger. Vrelka growled, "Stop running." But he wasn't running. He was just watching. Vrelka jumped high and came down with full force, her tail ready to pierce his chest. And that's when the human moved. In one smooth motion, he reached into the cloth around his waist and pulled out a small blade. Just one. Small. Metal. But sharp. As Vrelka's tail came down, the blade flashed and everything stopped. Vrelka didn't feel pain at first. She just heard something. Clink. Her tail hit the ground, not as a weapon, but as a broken piece. Blood spilled across the floor. She turned slowly and looked behind her. Her tail was gone, sliced clean. She fell to one knee. Not from weakness, but from shock. The human stood in front of her, holding the blade. It was still glowing from the cut. But his hand didn't shake. His face didn't change. He looked at her the same way he did before the fight began. Calm. Quiet. Almost gentle. Vrelka breathed heavily. The pain started now. Real pain. But more than pain. Was fear. Not because he hurt her, but because he didn't even try hard. The crowd was silent. Not one voice, not one sound. Even the queen stood up from her seat, her mouth slightly open. The advisor whispered, He made her kneel." The queen didn't speak. Vrelka looked up at the human, her eyes wide. "What are you?" she whispered. The human crouched, down beside her. "I'm sorry," he said softly, "but it had to end." Then he stood and walked away. Vrelka stayed on her knees. The warrior with the deadly tail had been defeated, and the galaxy would never be the same. The cage match Vrelka did not return to her quarters after the fight. They carried her. Her tail had been cleanly sliced, something no one thought was possible. She was silent, her eyes locked on the ceiling as guards moved her through the underground tunnels of the arena. She wasn't angry, she wasn't crying. She was confused. The same warrior who had once made warlords scream was now quiet like a child after a bad dream. "What is a human?" she whispered to herself. Above in the arena stands, the crowd still hadn't left. They waited for someone to explain what they just saw. The announcer had no words. Even the queen had left without speaking. Only the silent replay of the human, slicing her tail, played on the screens again and again. In a private room behind the arena, the human sat on a bench. No chains, no guards. Just him and an empty space. He still held the small blade in his hand. He had told them he didn't want to fight. He had warned them again and again. They didn't listen. Now they feared him. A high-ranking war scholar entered the room. Her face was pale. What are you?" she asked. He looked at her slowly. "A medic," he said. "You're lying. I trained to heal, not to kill." The scholar swallowed hard. "You just took down the most dangerous warrior on this planet with one strike." The human looked at his blade. "She gave me many chances to run. I gave her many chances to stop. But she wouldn't," the scholar whispered. He nodded. "So I stopped her." Meanwhile, Vrelka was taken to a healing pod. The medical bots worked on sealing the wound where her tail had been. But nothing could fix what she had lost inside her heart. The tail had been part of her pride, her power, her identity, and now she felt small, weaker, alone. And yet, in that silence, she remembered the way the human looked at her. He didn't enjoy hurting her. He didn't laugh. He didn't even cheer for victory. He looked at her like someone who saw through everything, even her anger. The queen called an emergency meeting. "This cannot be hidden," she said, her voice cold. "Our strongest warrior was brought to her knees by a human." "A spy?" one noble asked. "A weapon?" another whispered. "A god?" someone joked, but no one laughed. The queen slammed her hand on the table. "He is a threat. Shall we kill him?" her general asked. "No," she said. "We watch. We wait. We see who else knows about him." The human was placed in a guest room. Not a prison, but not a reward either. Vrelka asked to see him. The queen allowed it, curious about what would happen. That night, Vrelka entered the room. Her steps were slower now, not because of pain, but because of the weight in her chest. The human looked up at her. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Then Vrelka said, "You didn't humiliate me. You could have. But you didn't." The human nodded. "That was never my goal. You made me kneel. I stopped your tail." "You stopped everything," she said. She sat across from him. "They told me to kill you. Before the next fight. Are you going to try?" "No," she said. "Not because I can't, but because I don't want to." He looked into her eyes. "Why?" Vrelka's voice shook for the first time in years. "Because I saw something. When I was on my knees, something in you, something ancient." He didn't reply. She leaned forward. "You moved like a warrior, but you didn't fight like one. And when you cut me, I felt no hate, only mercy." The human whispered, "I've seen too much pain to cause more of it, but if someone brings pain to others, I stop them." Vrelka nodded. "Then I was the pain." "Yes," he said softly. "But now, maybe you can be something else." She looked at her reflection in the window. A warrior without a tail. A legend broken in one day. And yet for the first time she didn't feel empty. She felt something new. A beginning. Behind the walls, soldiers watched their meeting through hidden cameras. The queen did too. "Something is happening," she whispered, her Advisor nodded. And whatever it is, it cannot be controlled. The silence that followed, the arenas of Dravalis were never silent. But today, not a single voice echoed in the streets. Markets were closed. Soldiers whispered instead of shouting. News spread faster than fire. The human made Vrelka kneel. And didn't even try to kill her. In the Queen's throne room, a council of war sat in disbelief. Giant screens showed the slow-motion replay again and again. The moment the human cut Vrelka's tail, the moment she fell, the moment he walked away. The Queen stared at the screen, her eyes cold. What do we know about him? Very little, her spymaster replied. He arrived on a cargo ship. No weapons, no records. He volunteered to fight, saying it was the only way to speak with you. He asked to be in the arena? She asked, voice sharp. Yes, my queen, and we allowed it, thinking it would be amusing. The queen stood up. And now the galaxy thinks we're weak. Meanwhile, deep underground in the palace, the human stood alone in a chamber of glass. No chains held him, but the walls were lined with hidden weapons. Dozens of armed watchers hid behind mirrored glass, ready to fire at a single word from the Queen. But the human just stared at the ceiling. His breath was steady, his eyes calm, as if he knew everything, as if he was waiting. In another wing of the palace, Vrelka sat in silence. No one dared speak to her. Even her own soldiers avoided her eyes. For the first time she felt invisible, not feared, not hated, just forgotten. And still, her mind stayed on him. The human, his face, his words, his silence. She remembered what he said before walking away. I'm sorry, but it had to end. She had spent her life killing threats before they could grow. She had fought monsters. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw something different, something older than war, something dangerous, but not cruel. Something awakened. She stood suddenly. Her guards tried to stop her, but she pushed them aside. Take me to him, she said. They obeyed. When she entered the chamber, the human turned his head slowly. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. Vrelka stepped closer, ignoring the glowing walls and the eyes watching them. Who are you? She asked. He looked at her, voice soft. You already know? I want to hear it. He paused, then said, I'm from a place your stars don't show, a place your maps forgot. Earth? What's left of it, he replied. She frowned. You're not just a human. He nodded once. No. The air grew cold, not from temperature, but from something else. Vrelka felt it deep inside her bones. The walls hummed, the guards behind. The mirror glass leaned forward. Ready? The human slowly closed his eyes and whispered, You think you control the cages here, but you never saw the ones I escaped from. What do you mean? He opened his eyes. And for a second, just 1 second, something moved behind them, something that didn't belong in any galaxy. Vrelka stepped back. She had faced horrors, seen beings tear each other apart in the black sands of war, but she had never seen this. The human whispered, They tried to make me forget, to bury it, to lock it away. Who? Vrelka asked, her voice shaking. My own kind, he replied, but I didn't break. I survived, and now, I want peace. She stared at him. You could destroy this planet. I don't want to, he said. I want to be left alone. But if they come for me again... He looked at the walls. Then, they will remember what I am. Behind the glass, alarms began to ring, systems glitched. Power flickered. The guards shouted over radios. His presence is destabilizing containment. The Queen, watching from her chamber, stood with wide eyes. He's doing this, without moving. She turned to her general. We must prepare. Not to kill him, but to survive him. In the chamber, Vrelka didn't move. She whispered, Why did you spare me? He looked at her gently. Because you didn't know. Know what? He turned away. That I'm not what you fear. I'm what your ancestors tried to forget. She stepped closer. Then teach me. He looked surprised. You want to learn? I've lived my life in cages made of power. I want to understand the thing that broke them. For the first time, he smiled. Then you must walk with me. Not as a warrior, not as a killer, but as something new. Vrelka nodded. And in that moment, something deep inside her, something ancient, shifted. The silence was broken. Not by war, not by fear, but by the beginning of a dangerous bond. Whispers of Earth Night fell over the planet, Dravalis, but inside the palace no one slept. The queen watched the surveillance screens again and again. The human never raised his hand, never spoke threats. Yet the machines failed around him. Lights flickered, gravity shifted. Scanners gave no results. Every attempt to scan him returned the same line. Unknown pattern, not of current cycle. In her private chambers, Vrelka sat across from the human. No guards, no weapons, just silence between them. She asked, "Why did you come here?" The human took a deep breath. "Because I heard the echo." "What echo?" He looked at her, eyes tired. "Your people have awakened something." Vrelka frowned. "We dig, we build, we take. That is our way." "Yes," he said. "And one of your ships sent a signal, far beyond the stars. A signal that shouldn't have been heard." Vrelka leaned in. "You mean the deep code?" He nodded. Dravelin scientists had found a strange artifact months ago buried deep inside a forgotten moon. The artifact pulsed with energy, older than time. They thought it was a weapon. They tried to open it, and the signal escaped. "It wasn't a weapon," the human said. "It was a prison, and now the lock is broken." Vrelka froze. The human stood up, his voice low. "Do you know why I survived Earth?" "No," she whispered. "Because I listened to the whispers. Not from people, not from machines, but from the deep places, under our world. The places where light dies." Vrelka shook her head. "That sounds like madness." "That's what they said," he replied. "Until our cities burned, until the skies cracked, until my people begged the silence to stop." She stared at him. "What happened to Earth?" He looked away. "We opened a door, and something stepped through." Vrelka's voice shook. "And you fought it?" "No," he said, eyes distant. "I survived it, and I carried its mark." He unwrapped a strip of cloth from his arm. Beneath it, his skin was not flesh. It was something else. Not machine, not alien. Something that shimmered with patterns that pulsed slowly, like breathing light. "This is not technology," Vrelka whispered. "It's a warning," he said. "And a key." "To what?" He looked her straight in the eyes. "To seal what's coming." For the first time in her life, Vrelka felt small, not in body, in soul. "Why me?" she asked. "Why show me all this?" "Because you lost your tail," he said. "You lost your pride. Your cage broke. And now, you're ready." She stepped closer. "Ready for what?" "To help me." He turned toward the window. Stars filled the sky. "Your people think strength is in power, in pain, in fear." He looked back at her. "But the thing coming feeds on that," Vrelka whispered. "Then what defeats it?" The human closed his eyes. "Remembrance," he said, "and sacrifice." Before she could ask more, a loud alarm shook the room. Red lights blinked, a voice cried through the speakers. "Security breach in Vault Level 12. They both turned. "That's where the artifact is kept," Vrelka said. They ran through the hallways as sirens screamed. Soldiers ran past them, confused and panicked. "It's awake," the human whispered. We're too late. They reached the vault, or what remained of it. The doors had melted. Not broken, melted. Something walked through walls as if they were mist. Inside the chamber, guards lay unconscious. Or worse. One was standing, his eyes pure black, veins glowing with purple, cracks. He turned to them and smiled. With too many teeth. What is that? Vrelka asked, drawing a blade. The human stepped forward. Not him. It. The possessed soldier spoke with two voices. You touched the prison. Now it touches back. Vrelka attacked. Her blade cut through the body, but it kept standing. The human stepped forward, placed his hand on the soldier's forehead. Sleep, he said. The body collapsed instantly. Vrelka stared. What did you do? I reminded it, the human replied. That it's not time yet. Yet? She asked. He turned to her, voice calm. The thing in the dark is not alone. There are more. They remember Earth. And now, they're coming. Here. Vrelka felt cold. Not from fear of death, but from the truth that everything she ever believed in, strength, glory, domination, was nothing before what was waking. Then what do we do? She asked. He looked at her, tired but strong. We don't run, we don't rule, he paused. We remember who we were before we chose war. Kneel or burn, the chamber shook with light and shadow. Vrelka stood at the center holding the sphere, a glowing heart of memory, pulsing with ancient life. Her arms trembled, her skin cracked with energy. But she did not fall. Behind her, the human stood still, eyes closed as if listening to something far away. The darkness circled them, hissing like a beast that had forgotten how to cry. The queen arrived moments later, her war armor glowing red. Behind her marched the death units, machines built to destroy planets. She raised her hand. Step away, she shouted. Drop the weapon, execute the human. The guards who once followed her didn't move. Instead, they watched Vrelka. She was our monster, one whispered. Now she's our only hope, said another. The queen's voice cracked. You will obey me. Vrelka turned to face her. She did not raise a weapon. She simply said, It's over. You kneel before this. Human? The queen screamed. Vrelka walked closer. I kneel before truth, and right now, you're standing on the wrong side of it. The queen laughed. He's no god. He's a threat. The human opened his eyes, and the entire chamber stopped breathing. His voice was quiet, but it rang like thunder. You think I came to destroy you? The queen stepped back. I came to stop what's waking, he said, but I will not let your greed feed it further. The darkness behind them howled. It began to rise, a black tower of screaming faces and burning stars. It reached toward the ceiling, filling the air with pure dread. Then, it spoke. Not in words, but in feeling. You hurt me. Now you will kneel. Or burn. Vrelka's knees bent from the pressure. Her bones groaned. Even the metal walls cracked. But the human didn't move. He looked into the darkness and whispered, You forgot who you were. The sphere in Vrelka's hands rose into the air, glowing brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. It floated toward the dark tower. A silence fell. The human walked into the mist. Vrelka tried to stop him, but he raised one hand. This is my path. You'll die, she shouted. Maybe, he said. But not as a monster. His body began to shine, not with fire, not with weapons, but with memory. Echoes of earth danced in the air around him. A child's laughter, the smell of rain. Music in a broken street. Hands holding hands, and the shadow hesitated, because it remembered. You were once like us, the human said. You loved, you dreamed, you hoped. The shadow screamed. But it was no longer rage, it was grief, and then the human stepped into the center of the darkness queue and opened his arms. Take it, he whispered. Take what you lost. Light exploded, not in violence, in peace. The ground stopped shaking. The mist vanished and the tower of darkness folded in on itself. What was left behind was silence and the sphere. It floated gently to the floor, empty now. The last memory returned. The last piece of pain healed. Vrelka ran forward, but the human was gone. No body, no sound, just peace. The queen fell to her knees, not because of power, because she finally understood what she had almost destroyed. Vrelka picked up the sphere. It pulsed once, then dimmed. She stood before the broken council, before soldiers and machines, and said in a steady voice, "He didn't come to fight, he came to save, and we made him choose sacrifice." The queen looked up at her. "What now?" Vrelka looked to the stars. "Now, we remember. We build, not for war, but for what he gave us." "And what did he give you?" a soldier asked. Vrelka turned, her voice soft. "He gave me myself." Years later, in a quiet garden where a statue stood, the figure of a man with calm eyes and a soft smile, Vrelka would tell children stories of the human who walked into the dark and made it. Remember the light, and across the galaxy where once there was war, there was peace, the end. The storm inside her, Vrelka didn't sleep that night. She sat alone in her chamber, staring at her hands. They were strong, trained to kill. Her muscles remembered every fight, every scream, every bloodstain. But now, they trembled. Not from fear, from doubt. She had spent her life winning, crushing, conquering. But today she had seen something she couldn't fight. The human's words echoed in her mind. "It feeds on what you worship. Fear, pride, control." She looked at the mirror. No tail, no armor, just a warrior stripped bare. Her door buzzed. She didn't answer. It opened anyway. The human walked in, slow and calm. "You haven't eaten?" She said nothing. He placed a small bowl of food near. Her alien fruits, high-protein roots, nothing fancy, just survival food. "Do you always walk into people's rooms?" she asked quietly. He smiled. "Only when they're about to break." She looked up sharply. "I'm not breaking." "No," he said. "You're waking. There's a difference. You don't understand what it means to be me. Maybe not, but I understand what it means to lose who you were." Vrelka stood. "I was the strongest. And now you're becoming more." She turned away, fists clenched. "They whisper behind my back. My own soldiers look away. I was their symbol of power. Now they call me weak, because they don't see what you're becoming." She spun around. "Then you tell me, what am I becoming?" He stepped closer. "You're becoming dangerous to the thing that's coming." Vrelka's breath caught. "Because now," he said, voice soft, "you're starting to feel. And it can't touch those who remember what it means to care." "I don't care," she growled. He raised an eyebrow. "Then why are you still listening?" She stepped back, heart pounding. The truth was burning in her chest, and it hurt. Outside, the queen prepared for war. Scouts were sent to the ruins where the vault had melted. Their reports were confusing, chaotic. Time wasn't behaving correctly. Some said they were inside the ruins for 5 minutes. Others said it felt like years. One scout returned older than when he left. The queen paced. "Seal the site, no one goes near it, and keep that human under watch." In the shadows, her advisor whispered, "He is not the problem anymore. She is." The queen frowned. "Vrelka?" "Yes," the advisor said. "She was our monster. Now, she's something else." In her room, Vrelka looked at the human. "What happens now?" He sat down on the floor, cross-legged. "I'll tell you a story." "You're going to lecture me?" "No," he said. "I'm going to show you something real." He closed his eyes, and the room changed. No machines, no magic, just memory. The walls melted into images. A human city once shining with towers and light. Then, darkness. Giant shadows moved through the skies. People screamed. Buildings turned to ash. Oceans boiled. This was Earth, he said. Vrelka couldn't breathe. How did you survive this? He looked at her. Because I remembered who I loved. A single name echoed in the vision, a child's voice. Father. Vrelka stepped back. You had a daughter? He nodded. She was the last light I carried. When the world burned, she whispered to me not to change, not to become like them. What happened to her? His eyes filled with tears. She's gone. But her voice stayed. The memory faded. The room returned. Vrelka knelt down slowly. Not because she was weak, but because something inside her broke open. A dam that held back guilt, rage, and silence for too long. I've killed so many, she whispered. You don't have to keep killing, he said. I don't know who I am without it. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Then we'll find out together. Suddenly, an alarm screamed. The walls flashed red. A voice echoed from the palace speaker system. Entity. Breach. Level 1 alert. Outer wall has dissolved. Repeat. Dissolved. The human stood quickly. It started. Vrelka grabbed her sword. You said weapons won't stop it. They won't, he replied. But they'll buy us time. Then, I fight. He looked at her, not like a broken warrior, but like an equal. Then we fight together. They ran through the corridors as the palace shook. Walls bled black mist. Screams echoed from deeper levels. Something was inside, and it wasn't hiding anymore. The storm wasn't just outside. It was already here, and the only hope was a human with buried power and a warrior who had finally begun to feel. Rebellion in her blood, they ran through fire, through falling walls and screaming halls. Vrelka's boots slammed against the shaking floor, each step louder than the last. Behind her, the human moved like smoke, silent, fast, impossible to follow. The alarms were no longer warnings. They were screams of a dying fortress. A dark mist crawled across the ceiling. It whispered in a language no living thing spoke. Wherever it touched, metal melted. Light died. This is no storm, Vrelka said, breathless. This is hunger. It's searching, the human replied, but it doesn't just want flesh. Then what? Fear, pain, memory. Why memory? He looked at her with tired eyes. Because it used to be like us before it forgot. They turned a corner and froze. A squad of royal guards stood ahead, weapons raised. Halt! Shouted their commander. By order of the queen, the human is to be executed, and you, Vrelka, are to be detained. Vrelka stepped forward, sword drawn. Get out of my way. You were one of us, the commander hissed. You were our champion. Vrelka's voice turned cold. I was your weapon. You betrayed your blood. No, she said. I found it. The commander raised his rifle, but Vrelka was already moving. A blur of muscle and rage. She struck without her tail, yet faster than ever before. Her sword shattered the rifle in two. She spun, disarming 3 guards in seconds. None of them could touch her. The human didn't move. He simply watched, and the mist behind them crawled closer. They're not the enemy, he said softly. They're just afraid. Vrelka paused, blade to the commander's throat. He looked up at her, shaking. Do it, he whispered. But she didn't. She turned and faced the human. You were right. It feeds on what we give it. She dropped the sword and reached out her hand. Come with us, she said to the guards, or die with your orders. For a long moment, no one moved. Then one guard lowered his weapon, then another. Finally, the commander stepped back. Where are we going? To the vault, the human said. We need what's inside. The artifact? Vrelka asked. He nodded. No. Beneath it. They ran again, this time with new allies behind them. Meanwhile, in the Queen's tower, the walls bled shadow. Her advisor screamed as the dark touched his face. His memories pulled from his eyes like threads of smoke. He collapsed empty. Silent. The queen stood alone now, but she would not fall quietly. "Bring the death units online," she commanded. "If the gods have come, then we will answer with fire." Deep beneath the palace, the vault door stood tall, burned, twisted, but still holding. The human approached and placed his palm against it. His hand glowed. Symbols on the door responded, not in Dravalis script, not in human language, but in something older. The guard stared in awe. "What is this place?" One whispered. "A gate," the human replied, "and a grave." The door cracked open. Inside was a chamber filled with silence, and, in the center, a single floating sphere, pulsing, alive. Vrelka stepped forward, stunned. "What is it?" "It's memory," the human whispered. "The last piece of what the darkness used to be, before it forgot itself." "You mean this thing was once alive? Like us?" "It was us," he said. "Before the fall, before the hunger." Vrelka felt her heart beating harder. "Then what do we do?" He looked at her. "We remind it." But before they could step closer, the floor split open. Black tendrils rose like hands from a nightmare. The mist had followed them, and now it screamed. A voice echoed, not from mouths, but from the air itself. "Return the light, or all shall forget." Vrelka grabbed the sphere. Instantly her mind filled with visions. A world of light, a time before weapons, a race that sang to stars, not hunted them, and the fall. She screamed. The human caught her before she collapsed. "You saw it," he said. She nodded, barely able to breathe. "It's still in pain." "Yes," he whispered, "and pain becomes cruelty when left alone." The darkness wrapped around them, but Vrelka stood tall now, not as a warrior, not as a killer, but as something new. "You're not my enemy," she whispered to the shadows. "Then return what you stole." The voice answered. "We didn't steal it," she said. "We forgot it, and now I remember." Light exploded from her hands, from the sphere, from the human's chest. The chamber filled with sound, not of screams, but of music, old, broken, but true. The darkness paused, shivered, hesitated, because, for the first time, it had heard its own name again, and it wept.